एवरीवन। सो आज जिस टॉपिक के बारे में हम बात करने वाले हैं दैट इज़ ऑर्गेनिजम्स एंड पॉपुलेशन। नाउ एज वी ऑल नो दैट आवर वर्ल्ड इज़ fascinatingly diverse and amazingly complex, right? So this diversity we have seen when we have learned about the various organization of life forms, such as from cellular to multicellular, or like cell type to tissue, tissue to organ, organ to organ system, and organ system to organism, right? So ecology basically deals with the interaction among organisms and between the organism and its physical environment, or we can say its abiotic environment. So this physical environment includes temperature, water, air and land, right? So ecology is concerned with four levels of biological organization: first organism, population, community and biome. The term ecology was coined by Ernest Haeckel, and Professor R. Mishra is known as the father of the Indian ecology. So this is all just basic introduction. So we all know that majority of organism, they live in a well defined geographical area where they either share or they compete for resources, right? They potential interbreed and thus they constitute a population. So a population has a birth rate and death rate, but we refer it to as per capita birth and per capita death. Another attribute characteristic of a population is sex ratio. Now if age distribution, or we can say percentage of individuals of a given age or age group is plotted, the resulting structure we get called an age pyramid, right? In case of human population, the age pyramid generally show distribution of male and female in a diagram. So the shape of the pyramid reflects the growth status of population, whether it is growing, a stable population or a declining population. So in this, so here we can see that the three different pyramids of age distribution of male and female, right? So here different color are coded with the different section of the population, that is pre-reproductive, reproductive and post-reproductive. So in first pyramid we can see that the population of pre-reproductive is maximum. The second most population is of reproductive individuals, and the third least population is of post-reproductive. So such type of age pyramid we will call it increasing. Now in second pyramid we can clearly see that the section of the pre-reproductive individuals and reproductive individuals are somewhat similar. So this will lead to a stable population pyramid. And in the third pyramid we can observe that the population of pre-reproductive section is minimum, so hence we can say that it is declining. The size of the population, it tells about the status of the habitat. Whatever ecological process we wish to investigate in a population, be it the outcome of competition or the impact of predator or the effect of any pesticide. Now population size, here we can consider it as population density denoted as capital N. It is not necessarily that we can measure the population density in case of numbers only. Although we can say that total number is generally the most appropriate measure of the population density. Now for example, if I say that in an area there are 200 carrot grass plant but only a single huge banyan tree, right, stating that the population density of banyan is relatively low because its count is single, whereas the carrot grass are 200, right. Now but we are underestimating the enormous role of banyan in that community. So in such cases we take the percent cover or the biomass as the measure of population density, right. And in the total number is again is not necessarily a measure if population is huge and counting is impossible. For example, if we are measuring bacterial colony. Now for certain ecological investigation there is no need to know about the absolute population density, right. So in such case we use relative densities. For example, if we want to measure a population of a fish species in a lake, right, so the number of species caught per trap is a good measure of its population density. So we are most obliged to estimate it an indirectly manner without even counting them or seeing them, right. The tiger census in national park and tiger reserve, it based upon the pug marks and fecal pellet. So such type of observation we call it indirect observation, right, where we have not directly seen the organism but we have seen its presence, such as pug marks, fecal matter, and etc. Now population growth. So size of a population for any species if we take is not a static parameter, right. So population of a species is not a static, it is very dynamic and it keeps on changing and it's depend on certain factors. We can say that is food availability, predation pressure, and the weather, right. So the density of a population in an area fluctuate due to four basic process, right, that is natality, mortality, immigration, and immigration. So let's just discuss it one by one. So we'll start with natality. So natality is refers to number of birth during a given period in the population, right. So the effect of natality to population growth will be positive, right. Now let's talk about mortality. So basically mortality is the number of death in the population during a given period of time. So its effect will be negative. And immigration is the number of individual of same species that have come to that habitat in a given period of time from somewhere else, right. Originally they were not there. So it effect on population growth, we can say that a positive impact, that it will lead to population growth. Whereas immigration is the number of individual of a population who have left the habitat and gone somewhere else during a certain period of time or a given period of time. So its effect that it will decrease the population growth, right? So we can say it has a negative impact. Now we say that n is the population density at time t. So the population density at time t plus 1, if we say, will be population density at time t plus birth plus immigration minus death plus immigration. So this will be the formula we will get. Moving on, we have learned that the population growth is not static, it is dynamic in nature. It depends upon various factors such as food availability, predation pressure, and adverse weather. And the four basic processes due to which population growth fluctuates. Now the question arises that if there is any specific or a predictable pattern to explain how will be the growth of the population will be with time. To answer this, various growth model were introduced. Out of them, one is exponential growth. Now according to this model, resources such as food and water are very essential for the growth of a population, right? And this model states that ideally when resource and in habitat are unlimited, each species has the ability to realize these resources up to their potential and grow in number. So in such case, when the resources are in unlimited quantity, the type of growth we will experience is the exponential or geometric function. If we say that n is the population size, b is birth rate, and here we are talk about per capita birth, right? And d death rate. So the increase in, or we can say the increase or decrease in a population during time will be dn upon dt, and this dn upon dt will be equal to birth minus death and population at initial stage. Here birth minus death is equals to r, and here r is the intrinsic rate of natural increase. So our change in population at time t will be Rn. So this is the formula to derive the exponential growth. Next model, that is logistic growth model, it clearly denies the fact that the resources are in unlimited quantity, right? But it states that population in a well-defined geographical area, they compete for the resources, and the resources in a well-defined geographic area are in limited quantity, right? So this competition for the resources will eventually leave that the fittest individual will survive and reproduce. So in nature, a given habitat has enough resources to support a maximum number of individual only, right? And this number we call it nature's carrying capacity or capital K. A population growing in a habitat with limited resources show initially a lag phase followed by a phase of acceleration and deaccelerated finally as a symptote when population density reaches the carrying capacity. Now this statement can be clearly understand using this diagram that we can see initially here we have a lag phase, and up to here we can see a accelerated phase, and here it is stable due to nature's carrying capacity. Right now, since resources for growth for most of animals population are finite and become limited sooner or later, thus the logistic growth model is considered a more realistic one. Now let's just try to understand the mathematics of logistic growth. So according to logistic growth, the rate of change of population at time t will be Rn k minus n upon में k. This is the mathematical operation to calculate the logistic growth.